One king built empires, another bathed in wine while his people starved. Today we're exploring the absolute extremes of Asian monarchy. Why are some kings loved and others hated? In Asia, some kings live like rock stars, while others act more like humble servants. Their choices, how they use their power, spend their money, and treat their people make all the difference. Let's break down the wild stories of Asia's most famous and infamous kings. We'll start with a king whose wild lifestyle shocked his whole country. Thailand's absent king. The crop top scandal. Hated King Maha Vajiralongkorn, also called Rama X, is one of the richest kings in the world. He controls about $43 billion, owns huge chunks of Bangkok, and has a diamond the size of a golf ball. But here's the kicker, he hardly ever stays in Thailand. Instead, he spends most of his time in Germany, living in a fancy hotel with his entourage, 100 staff and 20 girlfriends. During COVID-19, while Thai people struggled, he reportedly spent over $1 million a day on his luxury stay. His lifestyle is next level, 38 private jets, 52 yachts, and hundreds of luxury cars. But what really made people mad was a viral video of him walking around a German mall in a crop top and fake tattoos. In Thailand, you can go to jail for 35 years just for criticizing the king, but this video was too much. Unlike his dad, King Bhumibol, who was loved for helping farmers and the poor, Vajiralongkorn seems out of touch. He's changed laws to give himself more power and shut down anyone who speaks out. Young people have started protesting, risking jail to ask, why do we need a king who doesn't even live here? Will all this luxury and distance end the Thai monarchy? If this king is all about excess, what about a king who actually gives up power? Bhutan's people's king, the humble hero. Loved now, meet King Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuck of Bhutan. He's basically the opposite of Thailand's king. Instead of clinging to power, he helped turn Bhutan into a democracy in 2008. He's famous for hiking into remote villages to check on his people, bringing solar panels and medical supplies himself. His palace is beautiful, with Buddhist art and a private helipad, but he doesn't hide away there. He and Queen Jetson Pema, who's a style icon but also super down to earth, spend royal money on free healthcare and education. Even their honeymoon got attention. They took a luxury train trip in India. But what people loved was how approachable they were. The king cares more about gross national happiness than just making money. He's also pushed for modern changes, like legalizing gay rights. When he became king, 90% of Bhutan's people showed up to celebrate. He's proof that being a good leader isn't about luxury, it's about caring for your people. Could more kings learn from Bhutan's example? But what happens when a king uses his power to control people instead of helping them? Brunei's Sultan, the richest, most feared king. Hated Sultan. Hassan al-Bolkiah of Brunei is one of the world's richest men, thanks to oil. His palace is the biggest in the world, almost 2,000 rooms, hundreds of bathrooms, and a garage full of Rolls Royces. He owns 7,000 cars, including some of the rarest in the world, and spends $20,000 just on a haircut, flying his barber in from London. But in 2019, he shocked the world by bringing in super harsh laws like stoning for adultery and chopping off hands for stealing. The world freaked out and celebrities called for boycotts of his hotels. But the Sultan didn't back down. He said he wouldn't actually use the death penalty, but the laws are still there, making life scary for LGBTQ+ people and anyone who disagrees with him. Meanwhile, a lot of Bruneians are still poor. It's a classic case of a king living in insane luxury while his people live in fear. How long can a king get away with this in today's world? Is it possible for a king to keep old traditions but still be modern and loved? Japan might have the answer. Japan's emperor, the modern royal, loved Emperor Naruhito, is Japan's 126th emperor, and he's bringing a modern touch to the world's oldest royal family. He studied at Oxford, cares about the environment, and even bikes to meetings sometimes, even though he has a $12 million custom convertible for parades. The imperial palace is huge, with its own vineyard, but Naruhito and his wife, Empress Masako, a Harvard grad, are more about service than showing off. Masako has talked openly about her mental health struggles, making the royal family more relatable. Naruhito supports women's rights, and now most Japanese people are cool with a woman becoming emperor, something that would have been unthinkable before. Their approval ratings are sky high because they focus on helping after disasters and supporting everyday people, not just living in luxury. Will Japan's royal family keep changing with the times, or will old traditions win out? But not every king who tries to change things succeeds. What happens when a king fights back against his people? Bahrain's King Hamad, the crackdown king. Hated King Hamad of Bahrain is a clear example of how not to handle protests. When people demanded more freedom in 2011, he called in Saudi troops to crush the movement. Over 80 people died, and even doctors who helped the injured were thrown in jail. The government destroyed the Pearl Roundabout where protests happened to erase the memory. Hamad lives large, with a $5 billion fortune, a super yacht with its own concert hall, and a gold-plated private jet. But while he enjoys luxury, 12% of Bahrainis live in poverty, and the country is deeply divided between the Sunni rulers and the Shia majority. Most people see Hamad as a dictator, and his brutal response to peaceful protests has left his country isolated and angry. Can a king who silences his people ever win them back? But what if a king actually listens and makes changes? Jordan's King Abdullah II, the reformer. Loved King Abdullah II of Jordan is one of the few monarchs who's managed to keep his country stable by making real changes. When protests hit in 2011, he didn't send in the army, he changed the election laws, gave up some of his own power, and cut palace spending by 25% to help refugees. He owns some fancy homes around the world, including a $23 million mansion in England, but he's also known for quietly helping people in need. Jordan has faced huge challenges like millions of refugees from neighboring wars and a struggling economy, but Abdullah's willingness to adapt has kept the monarchy popular. He's respected for being practical and open to dialogue, and his mix of tradition and progress is a big reason why Jordan is seen as a safe country in a tough region. Can other kings learn from his example of steady reform? What about kings who are both feared and admired? Saudi Arabia's King Salman and MBS, the flashy reformers. Hated King Salman and his son, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, are shaking things up in Saudi Arabia. They've let women drive, open movie theaters, and are building a $1 trillion futuristic city called Neom. MBS owns a $500 million yacht with a snow room and submarine, and he reportedly bought a $450 million painting just to keep it out of sight. But for every step forward, there's a step back. The murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi and the brutal war in Yemen have made them global villains. Still, many Saudis admire them for standing up to Iran and promising a better future. It's a wild mix of luxury, power, and controversy. Will all this flash and reform be enough to keep them in power? Meanwhile, in Southeast Asia, a king tries to balance tradition and modern life. Malaysia's rotating king, the mediator. Loved Malaysia does kings differently. Every 5 years, a new sultan takes the throne. Sultan Abdullah of Pahang is the current king, known for helping solve political crises and keeping peace in a country with lots of different cultures. His palace has a polo field and private golf course, but he's also seen at public events, talking to regular people. He's a big soccer fan and even pays for the national team's flights. By being approachable and fair, he's shown that even a part-time king can make a big difference. Could Malaysia's system work in other countries with lots of diversity? But what about kings who inherit a mess? Kuwait's Emir, the stuck-in-the-middle king. Hated Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmad became Kuwait's Emir in 2020 and had a tough job from the start. The country was already dealing with political gridlock and economic problems. Nawaf was called the Emir of Pardons because he let activists out of jail, but he didn't really fix the bigger issues. The royal family is super rich, with a $360 billion fortune, a palace full of art, and a museum of rare cars. But all this wealth hasn't helped regular people much. Kuwait's government is stuck, and Nawaf's half-hearted reforms didn't impress anyone. When he died in 2023, the country was left with even more uncertainty. Can Kuwait's next leader finally make real changes? Here's a king who modernized his country without losing its soul. Oman's Sultan Haitham, the quiet modernizer. Loved, Sultan Haitham took over Oman in 2020 and quickly started making changes. He's passed new laws against torture, joined international human rights groups, and is trying to move Oman's economy beyond oil. His palace, Al Alam, mixes old and new styles and has million-dollar chandeliers, while his $80 million yacht is used for cultural events, not just parties. Haytham is more low-key than other Gulf rulers, focusing on stability and slow, steady progress. Oman is now seen as one of the most peaceful and stable countries in the region. People respect him for balancing tradition with the need to modernize. Can he keep Oman moving forward in a changing world? Now meet a king who's loved even though he has no real power. Cambodia's ballet dancing king, loved King Norodom Sihamoni of Cambodia, is unlike any other king. He used to be a ballet dancer in Paris and now serves as a cultural symbol in a country still recovering from war. His palace has a floor made of 5,329 silver tiles, and he rides in a $1.5 million bulletproof Range Rover, but he keeps a low profile and avoids politics. People love him for supporting the arts, education, and national unity. Even though he doesn't have real power, Sihamoni is a stabilizing force and a reminder of Cambodia's rich history. Can a king without power still shape a nation's future? Transition. But what about a king who's loved at home but criticized abroad? Qatar's Emir Tamim, the balancing act. Mixed Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Qatar's young emir, is both popular and controversial. He's made life better for workers, raised wages, and led Qatar through the World Cup. His palace is worth $1 billion, with gold ceilings and a garage for 500 cars. And his $500 million yacht has a submarine and a snow room. But Tamim canceled elections in 2024, and his government still faces criticism for human rights issues. Most Qataris are happy with the country's wealth and stability, but the world is watching closely. Will Tamim's mix of luxury and reform keep him popular, or will international pressure force more change? Conclusion: the power paradox. From Thailand's absent king to Bhutan's people's hero, these stories show that being a king today is about more than money or tradition. It's about connecting with your people. Will Asia's kings keep changing, or will old habits bring them down? Hit subscribe for more wild royal stories.